person has said, and I quote, I was desperate to understand money, not to make it, to understand it. I wanted to know how it worked, and I wanted to know so that I would have enough and would be able to make good financial decisions. Hello, listener. We hope you're having a great day. Today, we have something special for you. Our guest for the day is a 20-year-old social entrepreneur and LinkedIn content creator with over 50K followers. She is the founder of Break the Ice, Youth Changemaker, while also winning a place on the Business World Wellbeing 30 under 30 list. It is our utmost pleasure to host Ms. Palakh Khanna today with us. Hi, Palakh ma'am. Would you like to tell our listeners something more about yourself?
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. I think, yeah, that's all about me. I'm someone who's trying to break taboos, and women in finance is also one of the biggest taboos. So excited for the conversation.
Thank you, ma'am. It's really nice to have you here. So, as we are today talking all about like side hustles and entrepreneurship and maximizing your earnings, I think the first question would do well to cater to the skeptics and ask you, why even go into a side hustle? If you already have a primary source of income, why should a person increase their workload and go into this field?
I think that's a great question. I think a lot of people ask me that, specifically students. And I think all of us have become more intelligent in terms of understanding why a side hustle is important, but essentially because more money, more access to a greater network, more skills are the basic three reasons of why you should explore side hustles, specifically when you are a student or someone who's in college. Even when you have a job and a secure job, that's what I mean by that. A side hustle can help you just enhance your skills better in maybe different fields. So it really helps you to understand more about the world, more about where your interests lie. Maybe it's not in that primary job, maybe it's in that side hustle that you then explore in the next 5 years. And of course, it is the income factor always remains. You have that extra income without putting too much effort into that side hustle.
I think that's a great point. Like more money, a better lifestyle as well. I think that would cater to the younger generation better. Uh, Side hustles have become very popular in the past years. Why do you think that is so?
Again, I think people are realizing what I was mentioning. I think it's about both things, not just income for younger people. I know all of us do really value money, but at the second level, people are also realizing that upskilling is important. So if your primary job, or maybe even if your primary job is helping you upskill, you feel like there is a lot more that you can enhance yourself with. And that's what side hustles provide you. I think it's a completely different environment and it's in your hands. So whatever you're experimenting with, whatever you're learning from is all in your hands. You also feel that kind of freedom within the, whatever you're exploring. So I think, yeah, that's why it's becoming a thing these days, which I'm really happy about, honestly.
I think that's a good point. Like along with the income part of it, it's also like challenging yourself and going out of your comfort zone, experiencing new dimensions. And there are a ton of options of potential side hustles, each varying in intensity, investment required, and particular skill sets. How should a person decide which type of side hustle to pursue to get the maximum returns for them?
I think that's a great question. For most people, they usually run after the income factor again because they understand that it's less effort, more money. But it's also important that you realize that unless and until you have the skill for it, you won't really do well in it. Because as easy as a side hustle sounds, it also requires a lot of effort because you're again working full time or you're a student full time and you're taking that as a side hustle because you can't maybe take it full time. There's a reason why you're not able to commit it 24 hours, right? And for that to work well for you, you really need to have the skill set for it. As someone, I have a lot of friends who've been selling online courses. It does very well for the people who are selling courses and skills that they're good at. So if you're selling a course in personal branding and you're yourself an influencer, you know what you're talking about. But for a person who's maybe just an observer of that content, personal branding may not be something that they're extremely skilled at. And when they create a course, 10 people would buy it out of word of mouth. Five of them would recommend it to other people. Five of them would say it's okay, but there are better courses out there at the same price. And that's where you will suddenly feel like there's a stagnation and your side hustle isn't even doing that well. So that's where understanding your skill set is important because if you're focusing on things you really enjoy doing, you have the knowledge for, you also want to enhance yourself, upskill. And also your side hustle would continue to do well because people will see you as that expert because you have that kind of knowledge for it.
I think that shows what goes on behind the curtains of a side hustle. Like if we are, consuming some media or some content, we'll just say, oh, this doesn't look that, skill intensive. But only the person who's actually doing it would know how much effort goes into it. Speaking of the effort, in the initial stages, a side hustle tends to be very investment heavy as you have to get, start from scratch, you have to get new equipment and, make an inventory and, get resources. Are there any tips you have to, reduce these costs, which might make this process more accessible to everyone, including the younger generation who might not have, a high level of income?
I think I'll kind of contradict to this. So there are two sides to a side hustle. It depends on the side hustle, obviously, that you're exploring. But like the example I was giving, creating a course, it doesn't require that much of an investment. So it's about understanding your skills, of course, at the first level, then understanding whether there is a demand for that side hustle in the market as well, because you do not really want to spend your time on something that you might be an expert in, but something which isn't really trending in the market, because that's how you increase the demand and then that's how you become successful in that field. And at a third level, it's also important to understand that minimum amount of investment should be needed, because since it's a side hustle, you do not have the time for it. You do not really want to have something which requires a lot of investment. You feel demotivated and eventually you give up on that side hustle. So if you're selling a course, you don't really need any investment. It's just your time for the initial videos that you would create for that course. And if you're passionate enough, you won't see that time as an investment. You'll see that as an opportunity to maybe get started with that side hustle, right? But if I feel like for the course, I also need money for the advertising, and maybe I do not have that kind of resources, I might already quit on it and I might not show my interest in investing that much. So I think go for things that are less investment heavy, specifically initially. Of course, if you're an experienced person and you have like 2 to 3 side hustles, I've seen people who are investing a lot because the ROI is also massive. But in the initial phase, if you're a starter and a beginner, go for things which require less investment so that you're motivated and you actually like give it your all in terms of the side hustle.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And while we just talked about, reducing the cost and, going for, not bulky investments, naturally the next question should be about the maximizing the earnings, because only if both work in tandem, profit returns will increase. So, do you have any insights about that?
That's a great question. I think that essentially is a follow up because everybody's like minimize investment, maximize earnings, and that goes hand in hand for every successful side hustle, especially in the long term. I wouldn't say in the short term it would be that balanced, but I think in the long run, if you want to have maximize earnings from, let's assume, one single side hustle, what you really need to do is combine like planning, efficient planning. You don't really need to jump into it suddenly just because, oh, social media is promoting side hustles. Don't get into it if you feel like you don't have the capacity for it. Firstly, be very strategic about your approach. Again, understand your skills, understand minimum investments, understand the demand in the market. That's how you'll also maximize your earnings. The second thing is efficient time management. So in the initial phase, you will have to commit a lot of time and you may not see the results. That's where a lot of people give up, and that's how they are not able to like maximize their earnings because they're like quitting in within the first month, within 1 month and a half. I've seen a lot of freelancers say, it didn't really work out. My Canva templates weren't selling, and I gave up after a month. But I did put that much of effort into it in the initial month. They did not maximize their earnings, and they even quit, reducing the earnings they could ever make from that side hustle. So number one, be very strategic. Number two, combine it with your mind, your skill set, things you are actually good at rather than just simply going for demand. Then combining it with the demand, which sounds very difficult because it's a very difficult process, but when you get into it, it'll be easier. And number four, always be very efficient in your time management because that will ensure that maybe you have 3 to 4 side hustles and you make more than what you would make in that job. So if you're able to manage your time well, I think that is very important in just getting that earning and being, getting that effective earning, honestly.
So I think we introduced two new points to listeners here. Like first is time management as well as some knowledge of the market in which you're going to be operating, like the demand structure there. So I think when you talk about maximizing the earnings, what are some other indirect ways hustlers can do that, other than increasing their sales? Does proper marketing and similar things have much of an impact?
Absolutely. I think marketing essentially plays the most important role in anything that you're selling, right? And in terms of marketing, there are like different kinds of marketing that you can go for, because essentially, like I was mentioning in the initial like conversation, we're breaking the ice about financial and everything related to finances for women here. And a lot of women who will be listening to this podcast would not know how to market their side hustles well. Simplest way of doing that is understanding what's doing well in the market. Marketing is essentially for the market. You, even if you feel like every ad is a meme nowadays, if you feel like you can market your product or your service or your side hustle through a meme, do that. It will just multiply the way that it's reaching the audience. A lot of people have talked to, they say memes are like low quality marketing. Essentially it is, but that's what's doing good in the market. Essentially that's increasing 10 times everybody's earnings. So follow what is doing well in the market, number one, in terms of marketing. Second thing, always try to, like I was mentioning initially, have like follow your skill set. Also diversify those skills when you're pursuing side hustles, because what will happen is it will also diversify your income streams. So again, maximizing earnings, using marketing in a manner that it reaches the maximum audience and it also connects with your target audience. And number three, being very clear with your target audience. Who is it that you're catering to? There's this thing called persona defining. Just Google it up and you will get everything about it. Understanding your ideal persona so that whatever you create, whether marketing, whether product, whether service, whether pricing, everything is according to that persona, so that everyone who's your ideal persona is bound to buy what you're selling. So that's something that a lot of people don't know about, or maybe have never gone through because they feel like it's too easy. You know your target audience in your mind, but when you actually go through the process of writing it down, that's when you realize it's a really, really specific audience you're catering to. And everything after that, marketing, income, pricing, gets relatively easier. So I think persona defining, persona mapping, whatever you want to call it, just Google it up and it can really, really help.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because even though you know who your target audience is, you need to find ways to connect with them on their terms. Like if nowadays, the new age generation, if you want to connect with them, you will have to use memes, even though you don't agree with them. Like if you look at the old time ads, like the LIC ads, they will all cater towards family and risk management and risk mitigation. So I think that's on similar lines. And what you talked about persona defining, I think I've heard some people, talk about it like finding your niche, like who are you, what are you doing in that specific market, and who are the people, surrounding you in that space. And I think we discussed this earlier, like side hustles tend to plateau, like, or they are like slow to show returns. And that makes many people quit in the middle. Like, what do you have to say for that?
Again, I think you will have to combine market demand with efficient time management for that. And another thing is, with market demand comes advancement in technology. So right now, if you're not using ChatGPT, Copy AI, a lot of those, different kinds of tools which are available for all kinds of side hustles, you're losing out because you're putting more effort into the side hustle and maybe earning less. Or maybe even if you're earning equally, the other person is using their time efficiently to maybe create five Canva templates and you're creating one because you weren't using those AI tools. And again, a lot of people might say that you can't really adapt to AI and even any kind of emerging technology immediately. And I get that. But that's where upskilling comes into the picture. If you do one course a month about a trending technology, you will be so way ahead of everybody around you in terms of side hustles or even as individuals who are maybe developing their skills, that you'll realize that your side hustle does well. You use less time to create everything that other people are creating in more time, and you're earning more. Because I can create five versus someone who's creating only maybe two, with an understanding of the market as well. Because when you're using AI is understanding the brain of individuals. So you know that it would be 2 to 3% more successful than maybe only human campaigns. And I won't say completely use AI. That's not how it works. It does not, connect human emotions to it. But it does have a basic idea of what can do well. And when you put your humanly angle to it, I think both of them combined can do really well. So I think again, understanding emerging technology, using it to your advantage can really, really help you to prevent you from falling into that stagnation and that plateau. So yes, I think, yeah, that's my answer to it.
What is your message to the people who are currently stuck in the plateau? Like, what advice would you give them?
I think step back and just understand where it is going wrong, because there are like a lot of steps in every side hustle and in everything, essentially in every business also. And when you step back and you realize, as a third person, as a customer, as maybe just a third person viewing the system, you will realize there are gaps. And this has happened. This is not just something that I'm saying out of, like, philosophy, but something that has happened with me also. When I had opened my organization, I realized that maybe I do not have the knowledge of finances, because again, either it is a taboo or it is something that we don't focus on as individuals, at least specifically when we're just entering college, right? We do not have the experience of that. And I just stepped back and I realized, okay, maybe finances is something I do not have experience in. Let's look for someone who can help me in that. Found a mentor who helped me and just told me, "You're stupid, it's really simple," guided me, and I understood it so well that now I filled that gap. So it's essentially just stepping back and understanding, why is the Plato even occurring if everything else is the same? Is it demand? Is it a gap in my system? Is it a gap in my operations or my process? Or is it just simply maybe emerging, new emerging technologies or skills that I don't have? When you understand that, simply work on that angle, and I think you will suddenly see that you're already improving. So, yeah.
Okay, so we'll be honest. We have done our fair share of stalking you, and your 50K strong network on LinkedIn is truly admirable. How much of a role does networking play in making a successful side hustle?
Oh, it's everything. Honestly, networking is everything. So, networking combined with marketing with a skill set is all you need for a side hustle, honestly. Because when you're starting out, like I was saying, do not go for like investment heavy side hustles. Come down to network. What is your core network, and how do you think you can expand in other networks? For us, it is easy. Well, if you use LinkedIn, you know that you can reach out to people you would never imagine reaching out to, right? You can show up in fields you would only dream of showing up on. So it's easy in that way that you know the platform you could use. What gets difficult is getting people started. So I think if you use LinkedIn, if you understand the importance of networking, and if you just build a professional personal brand, and I say professional personal brand, a lot of people assume personal branding is telling everybody about your life. It is, but to a certain level, you do not give personal information out there. Combining your personal brand with a professional brand is what you need to do. So if I want to be known as someone who's maybe a social entrepreneur, that's my professional personal brand that I need to develop and I want to develop. And I would do everything to push forward the idea that I'm an expert in social entrepreneurship. And everybody who comes on my profile needs to know Palakh Khanna, social entrepreneurship. Every room that I'm not in knows, if my name is mentioned and people then know me, they say, yeah, she's a social entrepreneur, right? That's the first thing that should come to their mind. So I think with networking, building that personal brand becomes very important. And through that personal brand, you can push forward your side hustle. So if you are an entrepreneur who's maybe having a business as a side hustle, that's not applicable for me. But if it is applicable for someone else, ensure that you're known as a social entrepreneur or as a business owner, and then use that word of mouth and that marketing to push forward your side hustle. It's as simple as that. And your network also helps you like connect with investors, with mentors, and with customers. So it's essentially everything at one place. What you need to do is understand its importance and then get started with building your personal brand there. So yeah, I think that is really, really important.
So I think what I understood from what you said is networking works in two different ways. Like it firstly helps you, connect with different people and, meet new people and, have a proper network. But it also makes you set apart your identity. Like, people, if you have a proper networking system, people will know who you are. So I think that works both ways. Okay.
Absolutely. That's how I'm so sorry. That's how a lot of people, like, a lot of people say that side hustles are maybe getting overcrowded and there's a saturation point. A lot of people even say that for LinkedIn, Instagram, all kinds of social media. How do you set yourself apart from other people is how you will shine, and you will ultimately, ensure that you are better than the others.
That's nice. So onward to the next question. Uh, Side hustle as a term suggests that it's an alternate work profile. How should an individual, balance their work and their personal life?
So I think it's important to find the right balance between them. I'm so sorry for the background noise.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to find the right balance between them. I don't think that side hustles really need to be your second income if you're passionate enough about it. But it's also important to understand that there are two different kinds of incomes that you're looking at. So there is your core income and your side income, and balancing between them as well as your personal life is something you need to understand within yourselves. For me, maybe focusing on my personal life on weekends works. For other people, maybe it's working on your job and your side hustle from 10 to 7 and then focusing on your personal life works. It's up to you as an individual on what you really want to focus on and what are your priorities. So ultimately, it's about setting your priorities right and then following it to the T.
Do you think the side hustle market is approaching its saturation point? And if it is, what can people do to make their endeavors and brands stand out from that of their competition?
Again, diversify your skill streams so that even if you feel like one of the skills is getting saturated, you have more to look forward to. Even if you're still working in that skill, it's important that you also promote yourself as someone who maybe knows 2 to 3 skills so that you can shine in at least one of them because there is a competition in every one of them essentially. Second thing is always continue to upskill. Like I was saying, AI technology, emerging technology is a massive way in which you can shine currently. If you know it, a lot of people will automatically come to you because better quality of work, easier time management, and for you, more income. So I think it's about understanding the demands as well as the emerging technology as well as upskilling.
Have you faced, all positive experience as a woman in finance, or have you faced, barriers of, or, glass ceilings of any kind?
Oh, I would never say that there are no barriers. I think there are a lot. And like I was saying, as an individual who's actually never, been experienced in finance, I also know that I was lagging behind somewhere. And I know a lot of people are currently. So through initiatives like yours and a lot of others, people are just understanding that maybe finances is that essential taboo. Again, I'll come down to that because I know that a lot of taboos that even I talk about are important topics simply getting ignored by society and ultimately harming those that can actually benefit from it. So when we talk about women in finance, women in entrepreneurship, happy to see that after Shark Tank, women in entrepreneurship has tremendously grown, and it's almost a buzzword nowadays. But when we talk about women in finance, I think there's a long, long way to go. There are severe barriers of research, of understanding, of just this lack of awareness as well. So at the first level, there is a terrible lack of awareness. People don't even know the difference between different financial terms, let alone use them. At a second level, again, there is this lack of understanding. So even if I'm aware of those terms, I may not implement them in my daily life because I don't have an understanding of them. And at a third level, there is this taboo and the stigma that women maybe don't need to know about finances, which needs to be broken, of course. So yeah, a 3 level approach might help in that. And I think a lot is happening, but there's a long, long way to go.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
So, looking back on your past interview experiences, what are some key lessons or insights you have gained that you believe have contributed to your growth as a professional?
I think in terms of interviews, the most important thing is highlighting why do you really want to be a part of the team. And in the interview process, it really helps. Defining your skills, defining why you're the best for the role is one thing. Enhancing and emphasizing on the fact that why do you really want to be in that specific organization is something that really helps. And I've learned that throughout my interview process and all of the interviews that I've given. I have taken that feedback from all my mentors as well. That just customizing your answers, if that makes sense, and personalizing them in terms of the organization that you are applying to really helps. So I think, yeah, that's what I've learned. And I hope that everybody also implements that in their own way.
That's really helpful. What strategies would you recommend us to build and maintain relationships with colleagues or employees?
I think just be really honest and respectful. I was talking to someone a day before yesterday, and this was a discussion around LinkedIn. And we were trying to understand how do you manage those relations and also ensure that there is no misunderstandings ever. The basic idea is to manage relations as well as prevent conflicts, is not just be respectful of the other person, but also try to find common ground. I think that goes a really long way, whether it's a professional relation or a personal one. finding a common ground in terms of your interests, your skills, and why are you really there in the same team or in the same community will ensure that you have like a professional slash personal relation which goes longer than your usual professional relations. I think, yeah, that's something that is a secret for a lot of long term friendships from work. Understanding what really, is common between you outside of work, maybe, as well as within work. What is it that you look forward to during that work?
How have LinkedIn interactions helped you in building your personal brand? Also, are there any specific features or tools on LinkedIn that you find valuable for fostering meaningful conversations and interactions?
I think everything on LinkedIn is really, really meaningful if you use it in the right way. Whether we talk about posts, like normal basic posts, where you can have conversations with people in the comments. And these are all meaningful conversations, things that, then lead to that network being created and that connection being created. Or even in the simplest way, okay, so there are DMs, there are posts, there are comments, there are audio events, but the easiest and the simplest thing that people often ignore is connection requests. I've told this to everyone who's ever asked me. The most easy way to connect with someone on LinkedIn is having a very personalized connection request that emphasizes on why do you want to connect with the person and what do you want to learn from them. And why is this the most important and often ignored one? Because a lot of people simply send a connection request to someone. Now, for everybody who is busy in their own world, half of your connection requests get ignored by maybe inspiring people or by professionals you really look up to is simply because you're not sending a customized connection request to them. So when you're sending a connection request, there is a button which says send a personalized request to the person, right? Always make sure you do that if you really look forward to connecting with that person. And obviously, if you're sending a connection request, you do want to do that. That's the most easy way of like building connections, building conversations, and then taking it forward when the person maybe accepts your request. Because when you write, I really look forward to like talking to you, that's when the person will write, thank you for connecting with me. I love to chat as well. That's the simplest way of breaking the ice with them and starting a meaningful conversation, right? So I think, yeah, that's something that I always tell people that that's the most missed one. Because obviously, there are posts, there are comments, there are DMs, and there are audio events. And currently, they've started something called collaborative articles where you can write on one topic together. Like a lot of people can write their opinions on one single topic, which LinkedIn gives to us. So that's another way. But of course, connection requests go really long if you use them in the right.
And how do you stay motivated and maintain a positive mindset when faced with setbacks or failures?
Oh, I don't want to give a philosophical answer to this, but honestly, I just use journaling. Whenever I'm stressed, I just write and I just journal. And I think it's been helpful for a lot of people. Of course, listening to music, stepping out of like house or just, a nature walk really helps. But I think personally for me, journaling is something which like keeps me at bay. I really want to, even if I'm angry or like upset about something, I think just writing down those emotions really brings me back to, it's absolutely all right. And it just stables me in terms of my mental health. So, yeah, I think that's what I do. I don't know what other people do. I'd love to know more about this actually.
How do you manage your time and prioritize tasks in order to stay productive and achieve your goals?
I think the first step is just realizing that prioritization is not just a term, but essentially, if you know how to prioritize things, you're halfway there. So, for a lot of people, they say I have priorities, but when you get down to work, they're really confused as to what do I do first? What do I get done first? So, the first step is really knowing your priorities, which is tough. It takes a lot of time to build that kind of like understanding of yourself and your interests, but do that first. Just write down what is the priority essentially. Write down the top three priorities. What I do is I actually make to-do lists and they're really helpful. And this is like a daily to-do list that I have to complete before I sleep. So I'm strange in that way that I have to like complete everything on that to-do list. Otherwise I won't sleep. So for me, I try to make that to-do list as realistic as possible because I do want to be motivated that I've kept kind of a streak of completing that to-do list every single day. So that's my motivation. But for other people, it might simply be top three priority things you need to complete every day if you feel like there's a lack of time. So, understanding what priorities actually mean to you, then following a method that really helps you achieve those priorities. If it's to-do list for you, go ahead. If you feel like never writing down something works for you, do that. A lot of people say when I write down stuff, it doesn't get done. And a lot of people say when I write down stuff, it gets done. Do what works for you, understand your priorities, and then get it done.
And the last one, can you share any tips or advice for aspiring entrepreneurs looking to start their own ventures?
I think that's a great question. I love that question. I would love to give cliche advice. This is very cliche what I'm going to say, but just get started with it. You've just been overthinking and you've been thinking that your idea may not be able to suffice, but give it a shot. I think a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, every day I meet someone on LinkedIn who tells me, how do I start my own business? I have an idea, but I don't know how to. I always tell them, just get started with it. Maybe you've been overthinking so much that you're now questioning the worth of your idea. Don't do that. You're getting into the wrong spiral. Maybe there's a lot of competition, but then again, Swiggy and Zomato exist, right? It's about how you market and it's about how you stand out from your competitors because there are a lot of people doing the same things. All of them are unique in some way, and it's about realizing your USP more than your idea. Your idea will already exist because problems are limited. Thankfully, problems are limited, right? And your ideas would be solving one overlapping problem or the other. Where it comes down to is how do you market it? How do you use your personal brand and your network to get what you want out of that business or that organization? And essentially, what is your USP, your unique selling proposition, which will help you shine from other people? Because the basic idea would be the same. So the advice is stop worrying too much, get started with it, have a 1 month plan, figure out everything else later. I think it shouldn't be a random surge of, okay, let's get started with the business. That will terribly fail. But don't overthink it to that extent that you're planning out the next year for that organization. Have a 1 month plan so that it's a solid start. Then let things flow into just line, and you will be able to figure it out well. So, yeah, that's my advice.
And in conclusion, personal branding plays a crucial role in achieving side hustle success, maximizing earnings, and fostering an entrepreneurial spirit. And by developing a strong personal brand, individuals can differentiate themselves from the competition, build credibility, and attract a loyal customer base. A well crafted personal brand creates trust and recognition and opens doors to new opportunities. It's an ongoing process that requires authenticity, consistent effort, and a commitment to delivering value, ultimately propelling entrepreneurs towards long term success in their side hustles and beyond. Thank you so much, Palak ma'am, for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in the interview. Your valuable insights and experiences have provided us with a wealth of knowledge and inspiration.
Thank you so much.